Hello all, this is Anusha. This is the fifth video of my end-to-end cab booking analysis playlist, where I would be showcasing the observed insights and recommendations based on locations present in the data. Please watch the previous videos for detailed analysis of this project. I have given the links in description. So first we'll understand how big and busy are the New York boroughs. So when I say how big is each borough, we can see that Queens is the biggest borough with 68 zones, Manhattan with 67 zones, and followed by Brooklyn with 61 zones. And when we look at trip volume by borough, Manhattan towers over others, especially on weekdays, since it's a central business district and transit and commute hub. Even on weekends, it tends to have steady traffic due to museums, shows, parks, nightlife, and dining. So we'll understand in the borough which zones are the locations generate the highest trip revenue. When I plot the top 10 pickup zones by revenue, I see these are the zones, and I see mostly it is the airports which are driving more revenue, followed by the other places. And then the same with the drop-off zones also, the first four locations are airport and followed by the other places, and the most of the places here you see are also from Manhattan. Here, the airport zones, while they generate more revenue, in contrast, the urban and residential zones, which you see here, they rely on high trip volumes. There, the trip volume is more, and because of the trip volume, also it is generating lower fares per ride, but it is generating comparable values. And here, if I check which borough is dominating in pickup earnings, it's definitely Manhattan, because we see most of the areas are Manhattan. But apart from Manhattan, Brooklyn is also generating more revenues, followed by Queens, and the same pattern we can observe even in the drop-off. First is Manhattan, followed by Brooklyn and Queens. So first we'll analyze one by one. So first we'll see how Brooklyn traffic is, and when we check the Brooklyn top 7 pickup zone locations by the volume trip, we see the Crown's Height North, which is typically a residential area, is having this many trips. In spite of it having larger number of trips, the Williamsburg place is earning more revenue in spite of having less number of trips compared to the Crown Heights North. The Crown Heights North residential area generates high trip volume from short local rides, while Williamsburg sees fewer but longer high-paying trips driven by its nightlife and visitor activity. After Brooklyn, we'll go to Manhattan. I am discussing more on Manhattan because most of the trip volume and revenues generated from Manhattan. So when I check the hourly trip volume and average fare based on pickup and drop-offs in Manhattan, I see here from afternoon to the late night the trip volume is more, but the average fare is very less, suggesting the high trip volume but low average fares. So I want to check how does Manhattan move. So since I have the trip distance as well as the trip time data, I calculated the trip speed using the traditional formula speed equal to distance per time, and I see speed in Manhattan is higher during early morning hours due to low traffic and fewer trips, but it drops sharply during rough hours because of the congestion from dense commuting activity, whereas weekdays are busier than weekends because of Manhattan's business hub, office district and commercial center. But unlike weekends when travel is more dispersed and leisure focused. So once we know that Manhattan speed is drastically decreased in rush hours, I'm checking the congestion, and when I plot the congestion top congestion fare areas with the average trip time, with respect to the average trip time, then I see these are the locations. Most of them are from Manhattan, and when I see the pickup time, though all are the busy areas, but in this LGA airport, the pickup time is very more. So Manhattan dominates the top congestion zones. This confirms it as the city's busiest core. And the Queens, LGA is in the Queens area, which is high congestion spots LGA to airport traffic. And here when I plot the congestion fare by the pickup hour, surprisingly, I see more congestion here in the early morning and the late night hours. Consistent late night to early morning congestion reflects New York City's 24/7 movement driven by nightlife, airport operations and round-the-clock urban activity. Here, the LGA is a busy transportation hub with a limited road network. Trips to or from LGA often pass through local streets and the commercial zones, especially when pickup zones or drop-offs happen in Manhattan or Western Queens. So when we look at the recommendations for the congestion or the low trip time, promote shared rides for short Manhattan trips. Encourage carpooling or shared rides within Manhattan to reduce congestion and improve overall trip efficiency, increasing overall trip volume and driver earnings. Support micro-mobility and transit integration. Encourage first or last mile solutions, for example, e-scooters, shuttles in Manhattan to handle short trips, reducing car congestion and improving overall traffic flow. Let's see which day packs the New York streets. So we can see that on Saturday we have lot of trips and Thursday we don't have that many trips, but the average fare on Thursday is more. So when I have dig deeper into the Thursday with trip distance, we can see the Thursday the whole trips are of longer trips with more trip distance. So this could be the reason for the high average fare. And here on Saturday we had trip volume more. You can confirm this here in the chart. On Saturday the trip volume and the late nights and the early hour of Sunday are more. So when I plotted the trip volume from the morning, it is increasing until late night or the early morning of Sunday. Now we look at how much does each service provider contribute to total trips. So the most of the trips, 70% of trips are carried out by Uber and 30% of Lyft. It is the same proportion for airport trips also. But for the toll routes, Lyft covers more the 40% of the toll routes. Lyft completes 40% of toll trips despite holding only 30% of total volume, indicating greater presence in toll heavy urban routes. When do drivers earn the most? We can see here the average driver pay. Here it is more because of the long airport rides and even the peak hours. So driver pay peaks early morning 4 to 6 a.m. with average pay possibly due to higher fares from airport or long distance trips from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. here. So when this is of driver pay and this is number of trip volumes. As you can see here, the trip volume is more. So here the suggests that riders during the stay time may be more generous, possibly tourists, professionals or longer midday trips. So when we again see the locations which generate the highest trip revenue, we can't miss it's like most of the time it is the airports. So I am going to analyze the airport trips more detailedly in the next video. Thank you.